Welcome back to Math Dogs. If you're new to the channel, please comment, like, and subscribe. If you have any questions, please comment down below. Today's topic is a 4-step plan to solve any equation. First, we'll go through each of the 4 steps, question and action. Then, we'll take a look at a quick memory trick to help us remember what those 4 steps are. And finally, we'll apply those 4 steps to an actual equation to see how it works. Remember, we believe math is better with your dog, so call your pups. Let's get started. So first, let's go through each of the 4 steps. We're going to ask ourselves a question about the equation and then perform an action on the equation if it's necessary. Step 1, are there any fractions in the equation? We want to eliminate any fractions in the equation to make it easier to solve in the next 3 steps. We would do that by multiplying each of the terms by the least common denominator. Step 2, we're going to ask ourselves, can the left and or right sides be simplified? So we're going to use the equal sign to split the equation into a left side and a right side. And if it can be simplified, we're going to use the distributive property, or we're going to combine like terms on each of those sides so that the left side is in its simplest form and the right side expression is also in its simplest form. Then we'll move on to step 3. We're going to ask ourselves about the equation. Is the variable term isolated on one side of the equation? If not, we're going to add the opposite of any terms needed on both sides in order to get all of our variable terms on one side and all of our number terms on the other. Then we can move on to step 4 and ask ourselves, is the coefficient of the variable term equal to 1? And if it's not, we're going to divide both sides by that coefficient in order to make it equal to 1. We're going to take a look at these 4 steps in a second, but first we're going to go through a memory trick to help us remember them. So you may be asking yourself, did I really see a fish and an octopus at the beginning of the video? And the answer is yes. It's all part of our memory trick to help us remember those 4 steps. So first of all, we've broken the 4 steps into 8 words, 2 words for each step. Eliminate fractions, simplify sides, add opposite, and divide coefficient. And then we've taken each of those words' first letters, E, F for eliminate fractions, S and S for simplify sides, A and O for add opposite, and D and C for divide coefficient. And we've attached a phrase to it. 8 fish swam silently above octopi dancing cheerfully. If we take each of those first letters, we can write them on the top of our homework or on the top of our test page to help us remember the steps. E, F, S, S, A, O, and D, C. You can come up with any phrase that you want to. In fact, the sillier the better. We can have elegant feathered swans sang about ostriches, ducks, and chickens. We could say every frog sat still around otters doing chores. If you can get a silly visual picture in your mind and you can remember the phrase, you're going to be able to remember the 4 steps. Now, let's see how those 4 steps can be put into action to actually solve an equation. So finally, let's take a look at the 4 steps by solving an example equation. It says 2/3 times 2x plus 1 equals 5x over 12 minus x plus 4. Now this is a pretty complicated equation, and it was chosen to show all 4 steps. Sometimes it will only use 2 steps. Maybe the answer to are there any fractions is no, and maybe the answer to do we need to simplify each side is no, and you could start right at step 3. But in this problem, we're going to use all 4 steps. So first, let's write our steps at the top of the paper like we would do in our homework or test. We would say 8 fish swam silently above octopi dancing cheerfully, or whatever phrase you came up with. And that's going to help us remember to ask our questions. Do we have any fractions, and if so, can we eliminate them? And the answer is yes. I have 2/3 and I have 5x over 12. And so I'm going to multiply both sides by the least common denominator, which would be 12, which means I have to multiply every term in the equation by 12. So 3 divides into 12 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8 times 2x plus 1 equals 12 divides into 12 once. 1 times 5x is 5x minus 12 times x is 12x, and 12 times 4 is 48. Next, I'm going to go to step 2. SS, do I need to simplify any side? And the answer is yes. Both the left side and the right side are not in simplest form expressions. I have a distributive property on the left side. 8 times 2x is 16x, and 8 times 1 is 8. On the right side, I can combine like terms. 5x minus 12x is negative 7x plus 48. Step 3. Are my variable terms on one side and all of my number terms on the other side, or do I need to add the opposite? And the answer is I'm going to need to add the opposite. I'm going to put all of my variable terms on the left side in order to keep them positive, and so I'm going to add the opposite of negative 7x to both sides, which is positive 7x. So 16x plus 7x is 23x plus 8. Negative 7x plus 7x is 0, or as some people say, it cancels out. 0 plus 48 is 48. I still have to add opposites by adding the opposite of 8 on both sides in order to get 23x all by itself on the left side. Positive 8 minus 8 is 0. 0 plus 23x is 23x. And 48 minus 8 is 40. Last step. Do I have to divide a coefficient in order to make my variable term have a coefficient of 1? And the answer is yes. I have 23, so I'll divide both sides by 23. 23 divided by 23 is 1x, and 40 divided by 23 is not a clean division, so I'll express the fraction as 40 over 23. And so x equals 40 over 23. As I said, every equation will not involve all 4 steps. Sometimes you can answer no to fractions and no to simplify, and maybe just add one opposite and then divide. But this example was chosen to show you all 4 steps. So that's it, the Math Dog's 4 steps to help you solve any equation. We got a memory trick involved to help you remember the 4 steps. Make up your own silly phrase so that you can write those letters at the top of your homework or your test paper, and you can get them all correct. Keep working hard. We know you can do this. As we say at Math Dogs, you got this.